Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of ClueCon Weekly, sponsored by SignalWire. This week with us, we have Yuriy Gorlichenko, senior staff engineer at Dolby.io and an old friend of the WebRTC and real-time community. Thank you for joining us today, Yuriy.
Hi there.
Cool.
Hope
So,
all is fine.
you've been on ClueCon Weekly a couple years ago, so maybe for the people who weren't there at the time, could you please give us a quick introduction about yourself?
Yeah, so since like 12 or 13 already years, I'm working as a RTC engineer, I would say. Like I started as voice engineer and for now RTC because we're trying to make things working around RTC area, including WebRTC, including all PSTN solutions, and mostly trying to gather all those two technologies into one solid solution.
Oh, nice. So you work on both sides from voice and
Yeah.
WebRTC and the various bridging parts. Which leads us to the usual question I ask people on the podcast. What are your tools of the trade? Like especially in open source, what are your main working softwares?
So I would say like I started as maybe 99% of the people started working with the open source project in voice world asterisk. But then when you start into diving deeper and deeper and deeper and getting it bigger and bigger, you starting to understand that actually there are some things which work good on asterisk, some things which works good on free switch, some things which works good without it at all, some things which works good all them together. And for now there is no my favorite tool, I would say. It's mostly all tools I use. So I use
Mhm.
Camille, Free Switch, Asterisk, and open source libraries like LibWebRTC, and based on it around it. Lua coding, because of Camilo, gives quite a lot of freedom with Lua in Kemi, which I really love. RTP Engine, I can't not mention. I can't not mention RTP Engine, this great product which
Oh
gives
yeah.
people possibility to work with media flows and for sure Katurn, etc. So actually, I would say
All of them.
probably all the bunch. Yeah, there is no some specific like even OpenShift. I don't work with it quite a lot because of in that case Camilo gives a little bit more freedom to create your own things because Kemi gives you possibility to build under the Camilo quite a lot of fancy stuff and extend it in a really huge terms, I would say. But still, yeah, OpenShift's also quite good project for its specific things, etc. Yeah.
So one question in particular, we have, so all of the other packages you mentioned we went over many times, but even if you're not of course one of the founders of the project but use it a lot, so it's a good candidate, could you give us a little bit more information about RTP Engine and all the other things you can do with that? Because I think there's a misconception about what exactly that is.
Yeah. So this is actually a good question and a good thing to talk about because of RTP Engine is quite interesting product in terms of what it is. Many people think like it's a turn server, but it's not turn. It's not fully turn. It has some specific libraries binding it into turn, so it realizes part of RFC of stun and turn, and it's kind of proxy, but it's super extended proxy, which can do
Hmm.
quite a lot of things. Transcode, adding the TMF, remove the TMF, and etc. And probably the most interesting thing here that RTP Engine gives quite a lot of information and gives you possibility to control things in a really easy way with its own API. So
Hmm.
in that case, RTP Engine for sure, for me at least, it's for sure mostly RTP proxy, which
Mhm.
also becoming gateway between not, I wouldn't say like a transport itself, like between UDP world and secure world, DTLS RTP. If we won't mention here RTP over TCP. We won't go to this nightmare. But in general, what it gives, it has like a really huge API which gives you possibility to control what's actually going on in real time in your system. So the most fancy things I built around is kind of controller of the real time calls you get on RTP Engine. I just use this API and got all information from the RTP Engine, how it goes, what their RTCP statistics comes, etc.
Oh,
So
nice.
you even don't need to use here Homer or something like that. You can build on top of the things quite solid solution where you can get all this information, analyze, and actually understand how is your service working and how it loaded right now, where are the problems, if there are lack of bandwidth, for example, or something.
Yeah.
Not in post processing, but directly in the real time. So and
Nice.
this incredible opportunity
That's
and things.
Yeah, I admit I haven't done much in that space. I'm an application developer, so I have a team of very capable DevOps people helping out at that side. And I've used GStreamer to do a few of those things, but it feels like GStreamer is not built on the same scale more than actual features. Like, it's not about the GStreamer will do most of what you described, honestly, but it's probably not going to do it with the same scale. Like, if you got a million calls, GStreamer will stop working.
Yeah, and actually RTP Engine in that case, really nice, just because of its quite powerful thing, especially if you do just UDP to UDP calls. You don't need to go to the user level, so you can use kernel model to just receive and resend packets and still get quite a lot of information regarding it. But in the same time, you don't abuse your system with overlaying this packets on the user space, which gives you possibility to involve quite a lot of resources, which is abused by other software. And yeah, and also it's amazing opportunity of RTP Engine to do clusterization, which really stable and really good fits of the RTP of the real-time communication world, because of the most common cases here, especially with people who using asterisk. Like, okay, here is a call in real time, and here's our asterisk fell down. What we're gonna do with this call? So we just start new call. But with RTP Engine, you don't need to start new call. Your call is still here.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, something Homer operates on sort of a similar, like, it uses packet forking, right, to analyze traffic. So it can probably be similar. Only Homer is very specialized on analysis and doesn't really, it will do most of what you described, but not all of it, including the actual RTP steering. Well, leads us into an interesting question. Is WebRTC better than how it used to be a few years ago? Do you think we're getting to the point where it's being fully accepted by the market? What's the common problem? What are the common problems you encounter when using WebRTC? That kind of stuff.
So it depends with what time we compare. If we compare when it started, so for sure,
Wow, yeah.
became incredibly better. So at least this F cancellation mechanisms, etc. They are
I
working
remember
pretty
having to
much.
run. I remember having to run Chrome Canary, if you remember, like
Yes,
having to run the
Chrome
beta.
Canary. I even remember when you have to run extension for the Chrome
Oh
and
yeah.
extension for this the rest of browsers to run WebRTC. And there were quite a lot of, not quite a lot, but a couple of projects which gave you this translation from the WebRTC to SIP, let's say. So kind of gateways, which was not super good, which were not super good solutions, but for now you almost don't need. So the most thing, I think, sorry for jumping, but the best thing for now, I believe, is that WebRTC becoming much more documented and much more understandable by other people, because for them, it's for many of them, it's already not black box. They understand how this works. They understand which technologies already brings. There are quite a lot of documentation already here. There are quite a lot of libraries around this already here. So, and at least this makes it much better. For example, I don't remember the name of person, Dave. He's a maintainer of the Pion or of the Ion library. He works in a Twitch, I believe, and he does this amazing job around the community, and he's super friendly, super responsive person, and also he just shared just a couple of days ago like a GitHub repository about how actually with links in the WebRTC for the WebRTC, with bunch of libraries, with bunch of documentation, just gather everything in one place. And this is just about how people around WebRTC became better, which already makes WebRTC much better. And then in case of technical point of view, yes, for sure. So echo cancellation mechanism, devices choosing mechanisms, even here still quite a lot of problems which has to be resolved, but it's such corner cases you probably will never fit if you won't do something really specific, but not just call between two people. If we come back to 2013, it was difficult even just to have a call between two people without any additional moves and negotiations, let's say.
Yeah, there's a lot that's changed. You're right. The browser support, of course, was probably the most important thing. Back in the time, by the way, the person you mentioned is Sean Dubois.
Yeah,
and it was a guest of, I think, about 6 months ago. It's been a while, but yeah, it's doing a lot of good work. It works at Twitch now, if I'm
yeah.
And which is in general a company that's been doing a lot for, well, it's their entire business, so it's understandable that they've been helping out quite a bit. But yeah, the main changes have been in the browser support, and I remember having to email people like Tim Panton back in the day just to find out how something actually worked. We're past that. That's super true. Well, if you don't mind me asking, can you tell us what projects you use at Dolby for the various parts? If there's something you can say.
No, I can say quite a lot of regarding Dolby projects. I do. So yeah, we do communicate. We do API platform for the communications. That's probably what I can say. But it's really cool that regarding Dolby, it's really cool that for now guys from the Millicast join Dolby, and there is Sergio, if I correctly pronounce his surname, Murillo. He's a really great guy with really huge amount of knowledge, and I used to work with his library Meduse quite bunch of time ago. Also on my previous project I used to work, and it's really cool that all this WebRTC world and WebRTC people community, they for now in every, not in one particular company, but they everywhere around. So Sergio here with us in Dolby, Sean in a Twitch, Google guys do their amazing job as well and contributing to open source, their library open source. FreeSwitch, I know, does right now quite a lot about WebRTC. Unfortunately, Asterisk a little bit behind. I used to speak in a Russian Asterisk conference, not this year but last year, about how Asterisk behaves as SFU. And I started to digging into the source code deeper and deeper, and understood that they unfortunately not here yet, like not production software, but still, yeah, the people spreading all this knowledge of WebRTC around all the projects, and it's kind of one big, huge, let's say even huge family, which becoming contribute to all the software and making life easier and things better in case of how to use WebRTC and how to build services with WebRTC.
Yeah, that's a good take, of course. Yeah. Well, you mentioned Pion. Have you done anything with Pion? Because I'm building a client around Pion, which I need for testing, and I'm curious if I mean, it looks like there's a lot of buzz around the library right now.
Yeah. So actually, Pion quite good library, and it does quite a lot of good things. I've used to use it with my again previous project. I've built based on it recording solution or core of the recording solution. Yeah, and it has quite good bindings of RTP, RTCP, etc. Also, it has quite good bindings or implementation, I would say, of the frame builders for the video codecs, which quite useful. And a lot of people around also doing the same things, also use it, especially with if you having deal with VP8, VP9 codecs, Opus codecs, Pion here, probably the best entry point to understand at least inside how it works. For sure, you probably will need to do something around to make it work better specifically for you, for your application. But this I suppose one of the easiest libraries to read and understand the concepts.
Yeah, they're it feels like it's a very light and understandable implementation, which is what makes it very interesting to me, is that it's readable. Like, you can go through the various steps and just it's all understandable. It's probably because of Golang, plus it's a fresh implementation with not much from external inputs, etc. It's very, very interesting. I'm using it to build a testing client that doesn't need to run Chrome to join a web page and make a video call, so that you can do all sorts of experimentation without having to build it yourself, which is actually, and it's coming along quite nicely. I'll add other stuff to work on, but it's really super interesting. Well,
yeah, and it also has quite good turn and stun implementation.
Oh, really?
Yes, and you can. I've used this library to build also software which makes checks of our turn servers if they're working. So not just calling the HTTP API, but calling exactly stun requests, like to get understanding if this turn server alive or not, and this gives quite easy, let's say, access to this library, so you don't need exactly understand quite deep turn stun protocol, because of if stun is quite easy, turn becoming really messy. There are quite a lot of things going around. Yeah, so it's also a really nice thing that you don't have to write it at least from the scratch, and just get some ready to go examples. Yeah. Sorry, I don't hear you. I still don't hear you.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Well, those are being live as it's dangerous. The I'm saying stun and turn are really poorly understood by many people, really, because I get questions like, "My users are behind a firewall that blocks all traffic. Can I fix that with stun and turn?" The answer is not very often, to be fair. It depends. So it's very often confused with something that can make traffic go over where there's no other way, which is sort of real, but not quite. I don't know. We should probably do an episode just on Stun and Turn and Stun and Turn to explain what it is. Yeah,
Yeah.
but especially Turn.
Yeah, so I've actually done this also for the Russian-speaking conference in
Oh,
Moscow,
nice.
like a couple of years ago. Yeah, there is a video in YouTube,
Okay.
which on the Russian language, but yeah, it's quite common thing here. Like it's really when you start to deepen it, you understand how it's complex and complicated, specifically how ICE works itself to gather all those candidates, etc. But indeed, there is need at least I would say, half of hour to understand basics, how it works all together, and then to go deeper.
Yeah, it's again, it's so go watch that video, guys, and maybe we can all learn more about the topic, because even I at times have trouble understanding where exactly it feels like to me that, especially when using platforms such as SignalWire, stun and turn themselves have become less useful. Like you don't, because one of the servers is usually set up well in networking, so you don't really have that much trouble with reaching the service. At the same time, too, sometimes it's needed. So I would say about less than 10% of calls I see needs any kind of, especially turn is just not being used as much anymore.
Yeah, so if you have SFU, so the concept is really simple. How to resolve symmetric NOT.
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
just have to split. You just have to split symmetric NOT to not symmetric NOTs. And when you have like a SFU or MCU, whatever, it usually behaves as a server which is not behind the NOT, or at least it has like a DMZ.
Yeah. It's configured correctly. There's a million ways you can
Yeah,
do it.
exactly. And in that case, for sure, you don't need. So, and here becoming question like not about not resolving issues with turn, but it mostly becoming a question: does your server, SFU or MCU or whatever you're using there, does it support other transfers? Because of in that case, turn becoming like a gateway between RTP over TLS or over TCP to serve RTP over UDP. Like it receives RTP over TCP because of the firewall limitations, right? So because of many organizations just doesn't allow UDP at all. They just close all UDP ports and that's it. And in that case, you have somehow to handle this. And and this, of course, like as you said, 5%. It's even big number. I would say 5%.
Yeah, you see last. We have a lot of corporate and enterprise customers who still are behind weird firewalls with all sort of closed ports, traffic shaping. Even that is going away a little, in my opinion. Like even that classic corporate firewall with 3 open ports, it's sort of going away in favor, luckily, of more modern networking situations.
Yeah.
Cool. So we're both engineers with a long history in the and this is another question I ask everyone. If you were starting with, like, I am a web developer, I am someone just out of university. I really like what Luca and Yuri are saying on ClueCon Weekly. How do I get started? Like, where would you start if you were starting in WebRTC and RTC today as opposed to 10 years ago or more? Well, 15 like most of us.
So this is quite an interesting question. Like aside of all this documentation which already exists, so first 3 days, just try to not start crying.
That's perfect. Yeah.
And then just go further through the documentation. Hopefully, there are quite a lot of already written by community books about how WebRTC works, etc. And actually, yes, the starting point is read about that, because of WebRTC is kind of next generation of the voice world, or even not voice, but let's say real-time communication world, which was before WebRTC started. And for now, for sure, you don't need to go to the basics of the voice over IP, for example, or the things, because of eventually WebRTC itself will lead you to know some things around that.
Yeah.
And probably the best way is just to see it and take WebRTC API and build your own P2P service.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
To understand how that actually works, or even I would say not understand how that actually works, but try to understand why it doesn't work for you.
That's a very good point. Yeah, that's how you learn, because you're right. If you start with, I mean, I will suggest maybe another starting point could be FreeSwitch or Pion or whatever. But you're right. In some point, if you start with a server and a tutorial with the server, you're not really understanding what's not working, which is the more important thing, because the things that are not working, if you build a prototype like you described, are the same things that are not going to work for the rest of your career.
Exactly. Yeah.
But
And
it's the
I believe the second thing is to not hesitate to ask the question in any community you can join, like a Pion community, doesn't matter. There are quite a lot of communities. There is a quite big community in a Telegram channel, WebRTC Globe, which
Oh, really?
also, yeah, which also there are quite a lot of people with good knowledge. It's I said, as Russian as English speaking users. So feel free to reach this community with English. It's okay. There are quite a lot of people which have really a lot of experience in this area, and at least will give you points where to go or how to find the problem, to maybe to even help you debug your problem, etc.
Perfect. So, well, and again, well, I think we've gone over a lot of topics, where to start from, what to learn, what are the interesting packages, and I think we're close to getting to the end. So, if there are any other recommendations you'd like to give to people that are watching the show, don't cry.
I said this. I said this one. Don't cry. Yeah, and actually, I believe that the most important thing here to understand that I think that people working in IT area understand this, that there is nothing bad if you don't know technology yet. So it's kind of, if you don't know something yet, this is actually the good way to start to learn. And the best suggestion here, just to not stop learning and go deeper, further. Here is like a really huge area, especially in the RTC world, to ask yourself why this doesn't work, why I hear everything, why my video doesn't work, why my audio works but video doesn't work. So there are quite a lot of questions around why, and these questions will lead you in terms of the people who listen in us to this area, when they will find or discover for themselves why actually the real area, without any guessing and just engineering things around why does this working or why doesn't this working. And do not hesitate to challenge yourself.
Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah, there's never ends. Like even if you look like we don't cry much, we do. We just don't do it on video, so you don't see it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Especially because if you're crying, it means video isn't working, so people cannot see you anyways, which is fine.
Yeah, indeed.
So that's
Indeed.
good. Video doesn't work, so they can tell you're crying. That's perfect. That's how it works. So, Yuriy, thank you so much for joining us today. It was a pleasure talking to you. We went over a lot of topics, and I hope to see you soon at a conference, maybe ClueCon in October in Chicago.
Yeah, that will be good and interesting. Yeah, I hope.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
And for the rest of the audience, I'll see you next week. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.